Hello, my friends. Welcome to another Chit Chat with GitCats, and I've got a goodie for you tonight, or today, depending on what part of the world you are in. I have a gentleman who has come up with something very cool that us who love tube amps want to tour with our tube amps, but we're forced to use modelers, and it just sounds digital. And thought, why can't somebody make something analog in a floorboard that can power my speaker cab, have some effects in there, and just pack it up and jump on a plane and go. Luckily for us, a gentleman who I have as a guest right now has done exactly that, and I'm going to switch to him right now, but I've just realized that we're not going to see him. There he is right there. It's Thomas Blug. Hey, Thomas. How you doing?
Hi. Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you too, mate. Thomas, where are you right now? You're in Germany, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Germany. My town is called Saarbrücken. It's a smaller town, not like Hamburg or Munich or Berlin. And it's very close to the French border. So I can literally walk to France. It takes me 15 minutes and I'm on the other side on the French border.
Now, Thomas, you have a little company called a BluGuitar, and you make some very cool specialized products for the guitar player. And
Right.
what people don't know yet is that you are a fantastic guitar player, first and foremost. And you are coming from the point of view of a working guitar player and designing products that we need and are very practical. So before we get into some of your fine products, I just want to know a little bit about your playing background, mate. Can you tell us about some of the things you've done?
Well, you know, we all started in a school band. And then the kind of guitar virus hit me, and it was so hard. I practiced every day, hours. I remember coming back from school, and the next thing I remembered, it was dark, and I was hungry. And in between, I was just lost with the guitar. You know, I just practiced scales, and So for me, the magic about learning the guitar was never a torture. You know, it was a very easy thing to me. Somehow I managed to find an easy access to the instrument, and I discovered that groove is a thing that was good for me. And I learned all my phrases kind of having a groove with it. So, and then I had, a couple of bands. And then when I became 20, I already had some session work in studios. It wasn't the high profile jobs, but at least it made some money. Mm-hmm. And I got around, and I had like 3 bands at the same time. And then at a certain point, I discovered that I wanted to do my own music, and I stopped all my cover bands and went all the way that direction and made no money. And but then I got hired for touring with a German band called the Rainbirds from Berlin, and then I played in Purple Schulz is a German singing kind of Bruce Springsteen, singer-songwriter with maybe a bit more pop.
Oh, cool.
So I played with him a couple of years, and then I played in another very big famous band which was called Tic Tac Toe, like the German Spice Girls.
Okay.
And we opened up for Michael Jackson. So I've been on stages with like 120,000 people in front of us.
Aha. So I have seen on your BluGuitar website, there was a great picture of you and just a sea of people behind you playing. Was that tour, was it?
That was that tour. And this was just the right side of the stadium. So there's like the same amount of people on the other side and twice the amount in the middle. So I have some other shots where you can see them all. I don't have the rights to show them on my website because, professional photographers, blah, blah. So I just got the right for the one shot with me and not with the girls. But I have the other shot somewhere on my website, on my Thomas Blug, the artist website, and it's like scary. But hey, this is, once you've done it, it's cool. But I've done it. I enjoy playing small clubs and kind of connect with others and jam with the band is even more important than having big shows and, fireworks and shit.
Sure. So if you're anything like me and you have to jump out in front of a huge crowd like that, I can't say I've played one quite that big, but do you find it's a case of the more people, the more comfortable you are? Like if I'm sitting one-on-one with somebody and somebody hands me a guitar and says, play me something.
That's hard. I can't, my family always teases me for not being able to play Christmas songs or anything like that.
Yep.
So I can do my thing. And of course, I'm good at that because I've done it so many times. And it's totally true. If it's a one-on-one thing, it's the hardest.
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've done many trade shows, and that's a good exercise too, especially when you have morning demos, when nobody is there, it's only 3 people. I mean, the second one at 11 o'clock is packed, but, if you have that one not so lucky day and you start as the first one and all the 3 guys with the coffee mug stand in front of you and it's like, okay. But this was a good practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I just watched ZZ Top. There's a little documentary out. They're celebrating 50 years together as a band now, the same lineup.
Wow.
And they were talking about just before they made it big, playing in a tiny little place, and there was one person, and they bought him. They wanted to buy him beer to stay, just so I had someone to play with. And he said, no, just a Coke. Yeah. He still turns up to their shows today, and they know who he is. They're like, hey, remember me? And they're like, of course, man. We played a show for you. Yeah.
Super, yeah.
Thomas, the BluGuitar AMP1.
Yeah.
We both had the shirt on right now.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, you got one of those. I got the same here. Oops. Yeah.
Can you explain to my viewers what the AMP1 is? And why you came up with it, basically.
Yeah. So, what it is, it's a 100-watt nanotube-driven, all-analog 4-channel guitar amplifier that only weighs 2 pounds. So that's the official rap I'm doing.
Okay.
And what it is, it's a pedal amp. I thought of something most compact and most useful for like today's situation. When I was playing with tic-tac-toe, I had a backline. I had like 2, 4, 12 stacks and varying
stereo
and blah blah.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards.
Wet, dry, wet.
But and just because you can do it, people picked it up in my living room. All I had to do is see, this is the setup. And then they monitored or watched the cabling and put numbers in there and, marked everything. And I wasn't even allowed to touch my own gear on stage. Wow. I got fresh strings on there. Yep. And then this, my job was to moan about the food or whatever. But, being the rock star bullshit. But the thing is, when I kind of quit that industry, I really, after that, I decided, I'm not a servant in that music industry anymore. I founded my own Thomas Blug band, which is this one.
Uh-huh.
And here's my little Australia story. This picture has been taken in Sydney, Maroubra Beach at the Rocks, a place where I spent a lot of time. I had friends there, and I was writing songs over there. I was writing articles for magazines, and I had a swim once.
Just once.
No. There was a rock pool down there, and it is so beautiful because in this rocks I had some shade. So even like midday, I could escape from the sun. As we all know, Australia has some heavy sun,
mm-hmm.
and so I was writing stuff there. And then, have a little swim and then maybe go to the beach, long, nice beach, a little bit jogging. And I got stung by blue bottles. We had some heavy waves and the surfers were there. So
I'm just going to jump in just quickly before we lose track. When you got stung by the blue bottle, did they tell you to pee on it? No. Okay. When I was a kid, that was the remedy. It was like, I just got stung by a blue bottle. Somebody pee on my foot. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Okay. Well, makes sense. Yeah. anyway, so after, my big touring things, I started my own band, and with my own band, I played smaller clubs, and I started having my 4x12 with me, and like a big 20 kilogram head, or 25 kilogram even, multi-channel tube head that I designed with using Kettner, the Triumph Mark II.
Oh, nice.
And so what I had was an Audi what was it, 6, with some room, and I ended up having all my gear and too many people in the car driving to my gigs, and everybody was blah, 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 talking for hours, because we haven't seen each other for a week or 2 or a month. And then that was so. And at a certain point, I decided, you know what? I'm the driver. I have 4 people. It's kind of nice, but it's a bit too much rock and roll at a certain stage. And I wanted to have smaller things, and I bought myself a convertible. So in that convertible, first thing, I couldn't get in all the people. So I had one sitting next to me having a nice conversation for a 3 hours drive or 5 hours, wherever you would go. And the other thing is I had to get my gear smaller, which I came up with a 1x12 cabinet that replaced my 4x12, which I've designed just for myself and this was even before BluGuitar existed. And then I came to the point where I thought, with the amp, everything needs to be smaller. And I discovered something on the electronic side that gave me the spark for making the AMP1. And this was kind of how to replace tubes without having tubes, being all discrete analog. And I was I knew after I had this kind of element, I can go all the way. And the AMP1 now is like my 3rd incarnation of that. The world sees AMP1, but I already had like 2 versions before that.
Sure.
And then when my first version was only 2-channel, and it had, no features and only 50 watts. And then when I found out about the technology is able to get to the real deal, I decided I have to do it, and I have to do it non-compromise. And this is the reason why I even founded my company, BluGuitar. Before that, I was a freelance worker for using Kettner, and I worked for Steinberg and some other companies. But, to do this right, it took, all my money, passion, energy, and whatever, and I didn't want to have a boss that told me when to stop and what to do and what not to do. And I decided, being a working musician, and this needs to be done right, and it needs to be friendly, pedalboard friendly, because we all love pedals. And my idea was, have the amp on your pedalboard, shrink the pedalboard, shrink the whole rig. So now I have only my fat cap, it's called. Actually, I'm having everything here on the top of a fat cap here. Maybe you can see it's just it's that size. So this is my elbow. You can see the size of that cabinet.
Okay.
That's my cabinet, and then the AMP1, and the AMP1 is on my pedalboard. We're using the same effects that I have been using in the past on my big rig, but I also have shrink that down to a small pedalboard. And sometimes I even travel just with the AMP1 itself, because it has like 3 foot switches. It's universal power. It's all I need.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So now, what kind of sounds inspired you? Like, so the clean channels, dirty channels, etc. Was there particular amps, prize amps of yours that you used to A/B?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was serving the music industry as a guitar player, I had all the excuses to buy good guitars and amplifiers. Being a session guy, you need to have decent amps. And even when I was a teenager, I had my first Fender Princeton and a Super Reverb, and I have a twin. I have a Tweed twin. I have a Tweed Deluxe 57. That's just a Fender collection. then I have too many Marshalls because I personally love Marshalls, and I have 50 watts, 100 watt plexis, the Black Flag logo ones. The lucky with me is I bought them all when I was doing clinics, and when they were sitting in shops and people, had them on sale for used from a customer that did a trade-in deal. So I got them all pretty cheap. Awesome. And I knew what good amps are. And I see a Vox AC30 in your background. I have one of those as well.
Close, AC10.
Ah, it's a 10.
It's
okay,
yep.
Sorry. Yeah,
yep.
I mean, yeah, okay, close. Now I can, yeah, it's close. Yeah, nice one. Yeah. So all my amp collection is there. And then I do have the option to tweak the amps on the side with what we call the custom controls. Reverb. Let me try to show it to the camera. Can you see?
Sure
These
can.
little knobs on the side?
Yep.
It's kind of a set and forget thing, but it makes it more versatile since, my Plexi collection starts with 7 ones, and I have a 65 GTM 45, and then I have some 70s, and there's slight difference here and there, and I wanted to capture some of the nuances of the voicing of those different amps with my custom controls here as well. So basically, I've done this for myself first, and and then of course make it as a product and get a range of tones that at least I need. Mm-hmm. So I'm using all my 4 channels on the AMP1, and that's and.
So you just mentioned four channels. So do you just want to tell people, do you got like a clean?
Yeah, there's a clean channel, which is like this. A little bit of reverb. Something like that. And here's one thing about tube amps. They start to break up when you crank them. Mm-hmm. And my clean channel, this is like the way I use it, which is on the edge of breakup.
I like that.
Now I crank it.
Yep.
So this is just the amp, driven hard on the clean volume.
Yep.
Next thing I can do, I can even drive my power amp stage, and this is where the nanotube works.
You mentioned the nanotube. I was going to ask you about nanotube. Yep.
And that's in the power amp stage. So what happens next is I have I'm using direct out, so I have no guitar speaker connected at this point. Mm-hmm. I use my own speaker emulation, the Blue Box. Uh-huh. And here I have a level switch now, lower. Okay?
Yep.
Now I crank the power amp to like 6 or 7, and you.
Uh-huh.
So it's not more volume, it's just what a tube amp does. It's getting compressed and saturated.
And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's my clean channel.
So you just mentioned the nanotube as part of that. Right. I'm going to come back to the different channels in a second. What exactly is the nanotube that you mentioned? That was something that pricked my ears up when you said that. So
it's a Russian sub-miniature tube. Oh yeah, what I like about the tube is first it's smaller. I need to be compact. So why using a standard tube that is 5 times bigger and even more critical as a component in the amp? If you have the metal plates inside the tube and the grid and all that stuff, if you have physical stress like vibration to the tube, it's not helpful to have a big tube, because big tubes have more mass. So this tube was designed to be used in Russian missiles.
Okay.
And so it's designed to be sturdy, and I can try to. You can hear it though. I put the master on 10, so this is not now very blue. And now, can you hear that?
Yeah.
So that's the tube compared to.
Ah, right. So
this
but
was
microphonics. Yeah, you're tapping. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is like master on full,
Yep.
and it's super low microphonics.
Cool.
I mean, if you would do this with a same wattage tube amp and would hit the big tubes like that, with a super hard pick like mine, you would hear even more noise.
Uh-huh. So I jumped in with the nanotube thing there as you were describing the channels, purely because when you played that clean sound and you pushed it some and you sort of got more grit, was that coming from the nanotube? You were driving the power amp a bit more. Yeah,
what you got from the nanotube was when I was cranking the master. Before that, and that's the interesting part, is I was pushing my preamp, and the preamp is tube free. That hurts, It's like, oh, tube free, it can't be good.
Yeah. But it is analog,
It's all analog.
There's
no digital stuff in the, and this is, I reduced the master to like 2 now. So the power amp stage and the nanotube is not driven hot. It's clean.
Yep.
So all the stuff I'm getting here is from the preamp side.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So that compression, that grit, we're not going into the nanotube just yet. That's all just the front end. Yep.
That's the front end. And I have another booster here. Maybe you are familiar with this. This is called the Super Hard-On.
Yeah, it's a ZVEX, isn't it? I'm friends with Zachary on Facebook. He's probably watching this.
And it says crackle okay. I wouldn't do a product like that.
Yeah.
But
he does say that's normal. I've seen the demos and he says that's normal.
Yeah, sure, it's normal if you design it that way. I wouldn't design it that way. But anyway, it says crackle okay, so no worries. So, see, I put my clean channel now, like I can leave it on 10, so that's the way it breaks up with. And now I boost it even harder. If you know the hard-on, it's more like a neutral boost. It's a level boost. This is not a drive pedal in the way that it makes its own saturation. It's just lifting the level. And clean boost. So what happens here is when I crank it.
Beautiful. So, Thomas, being that it's an analog front end, am I right in thinking that you can drive pedals a bit harder into the front end without fear of clipping the AD converters, etc.? Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I try to show is that my front end saturates just like my tube amp. Yep. Think of a Fender Bassman, for instance, and have this pedal in front of it, and you can crank it even to a lead tone. And most non-tube designs would never be able to do that. To have this kind of smooth transition from all clean into high gain and with no funky stuff. The tubes are doing that curve the best. And this is what I discovered can be done in another way. And nobody else has it besides we have it. And it's hidden somewhere on my 960 parts on the circuit board, SMD components, super small somewhere. And of course, it is a secret, but when you understand it, it's like, why nobody else has ever discovered that? The wheel is round because it works.
Yeah. So that was channel 1, your clean channel, and we heard that goes into a nice grit, which is what I like. I'd prefer that over using a compressor. Tell us about channel 2. Okay.
Well, it kind of takes over where channel 1 left Lisa. So this is clean. This is the vintage channel. So, let's get rid of the boost. Let's put it on 5 and have something like a... At this time of day, I have no groove yet. Fuck.
That's right. It's early morning for you. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, when we were at 42 Gear Street and they were recording the backing tracks upstairs, elevated jam tracks. Yeah. And I went upstairs and Tom asked me to play first thing in the morning. And I was just like, oh man, I need, I didn't even try anything to, so I get the morning thing, mate. I get the morning thing. Yeah.
But okay, see, this is like the gain on half, like on 5 now, and then I bring in more gain. You know, it's get marshallier. And then with the boost, my internal boost.
Now you just said internal boost.
Yeah.
So there's an internal boost built in.
Yeah. This is a no boost, and that's my boost.
Cool.
And that the boost can be adjusted on the side control as well. Mm-hmm. So how much boost you want from show you all the way down. It's like this. It's kind of a little bit of extra sparkle.
Yep. So Thomas, when you say is the boost pre or post that
it's
the
pre? It's pre. It's
so you're just
like
going to drive it harder
like
without necessarily making it louder. Yep.
Yeah. And it can be almost like a tube screamer without being too honky. Now I crank the boost to full. So okay. Can you hear? I play at a very low volume here in the room, but I nearly get feedbacks. You can hear.
Yeah, the overtones catching on.
Yeah. So this kind of features the overtones and this kind of dynamic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's the vintage channel.
Yep.
I go through the next, which is the classic channel.
Now, I'm just going to, before we go much further, you do have 2 versions of the AMP1, right? The Iridium and the Mercury edition. Which one is it that you're playing right now?
This one is the Mercury edition. Behind me, the black one is the Iridium.
Iridium, okay.
The Iridium is kind of a high gain version.
Yep. And they do sound different, the channels. I just wanted to clarify that before we went too far with the channels.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, we have the same name since the windows on the unit have the same name. So I have a modern, a classic, and a vintage. But call it that way. It's a modern classic rock tone or classic tone, and this is like a vintage metal tone and a classic metal tone, or you could use thrash metal and whatever. I didn't want to come up with goofy names. I kind of keep it a bit cleaner.
Not like Dave Friedman.
Well, I mean, Dave is cool. Dave is super cool. Yeah,
Yeah, some of those names though.
That's cool too. Yeah.
Okay, so channel 3, which we're on channel 3 now, right? Is that based on anything in particular, or is each one just an evolution of the previous channel?
No. I mean, I have some amps that I use for reference here, and the channel 3 is more or less a GCM 800. As the vintage can do some sounds of my super reverb kind of at lower settings, and then when I have higher settings of my plexis, and and this one is more the later master volume style Marshalls with like an 800, So, still cleans up though.
So that's what I was going to ask. Volume knob. You can, clean up. Beautiful. Now, they're
all the
just
way.
standard single coils you've got there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is
So
standard
if you
single
were using a
coil.
humbucker, you'd be pushing even further, huh?
I got a humbucker if you want to hear that. Or I just finish.
We can do that with the metal version. I always forget which one's
Yeah.
the Mercury and the Iridium, but when we get to the black one, I reckon we whack on a humbucker.
Yeah, okay. Well, the silver phase one is the Mercury, and the Iridium is the dark one.
Of course.
So,
Because
okay,
Mercury is
yeah.
silver, yes. Duh.
Yeah, kind of. I had to come up with a name, and who cares? Oh, works.
Yep.
Yeah, and then here with the side control, I can kind of. It's a little bit woodier here.
What is that you're
A little
adjusting?
bit brighter.
What was that knob?
Okay,
What are you playing with there?
Oh. This is the custom control for the classic channel. So
Custom
on the
control.
side here,
Yeah.
we have an extra, little control
Yep.
to fine tune the sound of that channel. And what I've done is I have like two tone stacks. One of the old era, like more or less plexi style, and then GSM 800 tone stack that has a bit more aggressiveness.
Okay.
So, and I can blend between the two. So I can go from like a woodier 60s style to a hair metal.
Awesome.
Without touching the overall 3-band EQ. This is just to give a basic character difference for the channel.
Okay. That's a really good idea. Being able to blend between the two tone stacks. You, sir, are a genius. You, sir, are a genius.
Well, if I want something for myself, because I have these amps at home or in my studio, and I want this and I want that, and how can I get there? Let's give it a thought.
Yep.
Give it a try, and say, why not? And then you end up with something like that, and have only one knob, and in the end, you decide which one you like, and then you play with that.
Uh-huh.
And of course, it matches some guitars better than other guitars, and yeah.
Now, there's a few people in the chat room, and I know on Facebook as well, there's a friend of mine who is a great female guitar player who's been wanting to find herself a much lighter rig. And I've been telling her about the AMP1s. And so, Lisa, if you're out there, I think the Mercury edition is the one for you, and that the Iridium's probably more my scene. But I'm sure she's listening intently and going, ooh, that is me.
Yeah. Talking about female guitar players, I mean, Jennifer Batten was my first ever customer. She was visiting me here, where I'm now, in my home, and on an off day she had, and I showed her the prototype, and she was waving the credit card, said, I need it now. I said, I can't give it to you. So she was the first one, and she played with Michael Jackson. And then another female guitar player is Kat Dyson, and she played with Prince.
Uh-huh.
And she also uses the AMP1. So I have like the high-profile female guitar players already, and some more.
Awesome.
So which is great. So they like to have lighter weight amplifiers. Makes a lot of sense,
I like lighter weight. I like lighter weight amplifiers. I like dragging along a stack when it's appropriate, but. For the last couple of years, I've been using an iPad, and I've been looking around. So when I met you in Germany and played you that, I was just like, yeah, this is cool. This is So we were on channel 3, and you said that was based on the JCM 800.
800, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. What about channel 4?
Channel 4. Yeah, it's called a modern channel, and it's a little bit Soldano-ish, and it has its own custom control as well, so it can go, I would call it from Soldano-ish into English.
Aha, okay.
Okay. Well, The other
nice.
side would sound like this. I was in the middle, so. That's the smooth side, and then the other side is.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, high gain.
Love it, mate. I think the coffee's starting to kick in for you. I know it's only, we started at 10 o'clock your time. I think the coffee's starting to work, huh?
Gain does help too.
It does. It does.
In the morning, in the morning. If you're cool and have all the energy, I can play low gain. Yeah, but now it's like the gain gives me the extra caffeine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, how about effects? Is there effects built into this?
Yeah, the reverb is built in.
Reverb, yep.
This is, it's a spring type reverb. Nothing super fancy. It's nice guitar-like spring reverb, I would say.
Yep. It's not like a Strymon Blue Sky or something. If somebody wants that,
no. This is a pedal amp, and it's designed to go with other, companies' pedals as well. So if you have a Blue Sky and the shimmer verb or whatever nice effect, then there's an effects loop, and you can combine it, and you can even bring it in with presets that you can store into the foot switches, or you can have a MIDI controller switching the AMP1. There's a lot of users having the AMP1 and like Helix HX effects, like for cable method, where they go with tons of pre-effects and post-effects, or they simply go with traditional, analog stuff. All good.
Now, just speaking of using effects loops and the like, before we jump over to the next model, I did see on your website you've got like loop expanders offering you, was it 6 loops or something like that to work with it? Am I thinking right?
Yeah, there's something like this. Okay, I don't have every product here right now, but this is our remote.
Nice.
So one way how to switch the amp. Actually, there are 5 ways how to use the AMP1. One is the 2-channel mode. I simply toggle between the clean channel and one of the 3 overdrive channels, and then have the boost and the reverb. The next option is you go and assign your 3 favorite sounds to the internal foot switches. Mm-hmm. So this could be like clean and reverb, and this could be like vintage, no reverb for your AC/DC dry rock stuff. And then you could have whatever, a classic with the boost and the reverb and the effects loop engaged with some delay, and have this as your solo tone with 3 internal foot switches. Okay?
Yep.
Then you can combine it with an external foot switch. We don't have one here. Doesn't matter. Standard double foot switch. This goes in here. Harry is getting one.
Go on, Harry.
See, this is a double foot switch. Oops. So, by our friends from Laney. And where is it? Here it is. So, and then this will switch clean overdrive and boost on off.
Cool.
And that's on a higher level, which means if I program my internal foot switches, I can go to the clean channel with this one and switch the boost. So with this combination, I can get 4-channel setup. I simply have my vintage channel here, my classic channel there, and my modern channel there. Yep. And this goes to clean, and then I can still have the boost. So I have a 4-channel setup with that.
Awesome. So compact.
Yeah.
Which will drive, I almost said the word, quad box. It will drive a quad box.
The magic Aussie word.
Yeah, 4x12, straight off your pedal board. That is so cool.
Right.
Now, it's a mono
Yeah,
output, isn't it? Much like the Kempers and the like, that are the power amp sections.
Yeah, it's okay. What I do? I need to say a few words about my power amp.
Yep.
There's a 16 ohm output and an 8 ohm output,
Mm-hmm.
and some of these, of course, it's mono, and it's just think of it like a 100-watt tube amp that has the two outputs there. It's using the nanotube, and it's using also Class D, which means I can even use it without a speaker connected. And this is what we're doing right now.
Yep.
A classic tube amp, you would need to have an aux box or, SE100 dummy load or something to protect the tubes from killing them.
Uh-huh.
And this amp doesn't need that. And I can still drive it, have all the benefits, just like of a tube amp, but without having that load. The thing about having these different outputs is that I really can provide the 100 watts and more. 100 watts is tube-like watts with extra muddiness that comes in at the very end, which gives you more power. Zag, all that stuff. The beautiful stuff.
It is.
At the output, so you can have, your full stack driven by this, and you're not missing your good old Marshall. So this is I beat that and it's like the real deal for me. And some other people did A/B tests, and they were also very impressed. So this is the power amp stage in here, and that's I think it's important to know. First, it does work without the load, and secondly, it does what your tube amp power amp stage does. You can simply go into the effects return and pair it to whatever your Mesa or whatever tube power amp, and then you will hear this is not a Class D power amp that makes some volume. No, it actually sounds like a tube amp, and it feels like a tube amp. This is so important. Most people think the guitar tone is just a pedal and some amp. But you play the tube amps. What I can see in your background, and there's a difference. There is how it feels and how it is, and I captured that on the AMP1.
That's great, because there is a difference, and I can hear it. So there's been a lot of guitar players. I had discussions with all the guys from all the amp companies when I was in Germany. Yeah, just saying that in Australia, it's so big that you'll fly to a city one weekend, play a couple of shows, fly back home, fly to the other city. So having to take big amps and the like is just very impractical.
I've been there too. If it's heavy, I mean, if you would go by train, you could still do something, but flying is, and a big amp doesn't work. Simply doesn't work. The only thing you can take is your guitar, which is important, and then a few pedals. And that's why I made this a pedal amp, because this goes into your gig bag, and if you're nice to the to the flight attendant, you can sometimes get it on board as well.
With you, yeah. So you're just saying about the difference of the analog versus digital. Everyone that has gone digital, I've been to festivals and I've seen them, and I know who's using what, and you can hear it. My big gripe with digital versus analog is the way it sits in a mix. Now, I talk very visually when I'm talking about sound. To me, man, I've had them all. I've had Axe Effects, Kemper, etc.
Same here.
To me, when you turn it up to where it should be sitting in the mix so that you get the right texture, there's no separation. You can't hear the notes that are being played. You're getting the texture, but you can't hear the notes, right? If you turn it up to the point where you can hear, and this is digital I'm talking about, and this is just my opinion. People might go, you're crazy. When you turn it up to where you can hear the notes, all of a sudden you've masked everything else. And I can remember years ago, 10 years ago, bought an Axe Effects, tried to make it sit on this song. It's just not happening. Then I bought an Egnator tweaker. I put a mic on it, didn't think twice of it, and bang, first take.
It works.
It just works. It just works.
Yeah. I made similar experience. I designed a modeling amp with Hughes and Kettner around 2000, which was called the Zentera, and we got an award by American Guitar Player magazine back then, being that the boss of digital amps. And it was a good amp. It was at the same level as we can see now, XFX and Campos. They are a bit more advanced in the way they can recreate stuff in detail. But the overall problem stays the same. I've been there. I've spent 5 years of my life working on that. And I know how hard it is. I'm not saying digital technology is bad. That's not true.
No,
I'm saying digital does beautiful stuff. When I was in Australia, I've done a library album, which is, I think, good enough to use plugins on a balcony, and I could make it sound pretty good. But here's my experience. I played in a band, and I had another guitar player that was funnily using the same cabinet that I have. Mm-hmm. He bought a fat cap, and he had the Kemper there. On the sound check, it sounded brilliant. It's like, hey, killer. Yep. But once the band started, it was like I was there and he got
Where
lost.
are you? Exactly. And that's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah, that separation isn't there. Yeah. The other thing I'm noticing is the grain. And to me, when I'm mixing, the grain of an amplifier, in the mid-range sort of, if it's right, sits just in front of the speaker, and it's random. Yeah. It's random. It's musical. Yeah. It's got harmonics. If you're listening for it, you're just like, oh, listen to that. Digital is not, to my ears. Yeah. Yeah, people are going to disagree.
I know. Okay. Some people would agree. Some people hear differently. Some people don't agree. And I think what I noticed is the analog amp is easier to handle. Let's put it that way, because it speaks more. It's probably a bit more direct. But what I found is it's easier. Even, my experience with the digital amps that I played for 2 years was, it's so hard to get the right volume level. So, having the separation problem, okay, you have to tweak it to get the best frequencies with for the room, for the presets, to fine tune it to death, to like, okay, that's spot on, and then you switch to the next program, and then if it's like 3 dBs too much, it like sticks out, or you get lost again. Yep. A tube amp, it's so much easier. You simply you set a volume, and then you have another channel, and that's the reason why I talked about the power amp, because the power amp is a processor itself that interacts with the speaker, current feedback. Yep. There's current going back and forth. Then there is a compression, a zagging, an extra overtones in the last stage, which is direct connected to the paper of the cone. Yep. There's nothing more direct than a tube amp or what I've done here. And this is the benefit of this analog technology or tube amps. It makes your life easier. You plug it in and it simply works. Uh-huh. And if you have a digital product, you have to take more time. You can do other things which this kind of product is not able to do, like saving 100 presets and having all that other things. But I'm going there with my next product. Yep. Using this technology. But
I didn't know whether to bring up your next product or not, because it's on your website and that looks amazing. Yeah. But we're talking about the AMP1 now. We can get to the AMP X a little later. Yeah.
This will take a while to be finished. Yeah, but anyway.
Mate, we're gearheads. We could talk for hours. So, mate, there was a really cool comment over here from, forgive me if I say this wrong, Julian Prow, who is saying, how can you get such an amount of features in that tiny box?
In this one?
Yeah.
Well, use a hammer and squeeze it. This is using very small components, like in the old days, the capacitors and the tubes used to be big, and this uses SMD components that are almost as small as the ones that use on mobile phones. The mobile phone one is one size smaller. But what we've done is we used the all analog technology, using all analog components, capacitors, and I was listening to different type of these SMD capacitors to find the equivalent to like an orange drop or a Melroy or a Vima capacitor. And a capacitor is a electrical component that has a value, but it also has a kind of side effects, and that's the magic in the tube amps. And I spent a lot of time finding these differences in this kind of components to get the same sound recipe just on that on our nanotube technology. And everything is smaller, and it's possible if once you start your own way, not having the big transformers, having a switch mode power supply, which is universal power anyhow.
So you are universal power. You can take that worldwide, and it's
yeah.
Everything should be these days.
Come on. The Aussie plug here. I mean, this side is international, but the other side to go into the wall outlet needs to be Aussie.
Struth.
Yeah.
Struth, mate.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there any other features on your Mercury edition that is not on the Iridium that you would like to take us through before we have a listen to the Iridium? Were you going to hook up the other just as a comparison?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
We didn't talk on this one about the recording out.
Okay. Yeah.
I have something that I wanted to show you very briefly. I'm using the Blue Box right now.
Yeah.
And I show you the Blue Box has different caps. I go for another cap. And of course, this is the Fender world, and I would go for something like this. And this is like. Yeah, but I also can go direct from this.
Yep.
Maybe Harry can switch.
So just about the Blue Box, is that speaker impulse responses that are loaded into that? Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah. It's my own cabinet collection. So
and
this is direct now?
In 2020, you wouldn't bother with anything but speaker IRs, I don't think. That really is where it's at.
Okay. Can you switch? So this is the Blue Box.
Yep.
And now that's the direct. Or sounds also good. I don't have the many options and choices, but so what I'm saying here is, you can gig with that with a guitar speaker cabinet or full stack or 1x12, whatever.
Yep.
But you can also go direct, record with it.
Awesome.
And the whole unit is just self-contained. This is all you need, Okay. Shall we swap for the other one?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So people are probably, as you're doing that, I'm just going to say, people are probably noticing your really nice guitar there. That is one of his own, based on his 61 Strat, which is just sitting beside him there as well. And I've played both those guitars, and they're really, really nice, I got to say.
So too many cables here.
What about MIDI, Thomas? Can you use a MIDI controller to control the AMP1?
Yes, you can. The thing is, one sec. 1, 2, and 3.
Mate, imagine doing that with a real amplifier instead. Having to change the mics.
Yeah. No, it's all. The thing about the AMP1 is we have this intelligent foot switch socket that works for the double foot switch that I showed you, and it also works for the remote. So when you plug in our remote, it will detect, it's a remote. So they're talking to each other.
Yep.
And then I can, I simply plug this one in, and then I should be able to, go through my channels here and engage the effects loop and have master, volume, gain, power soak, everything, and store it in presets.
Uh-huh.
And this remote has a MIDI out, and it has this thing where we can install something what we call the looper kit,
Yep.
which is a pedal switcher. So that's
Nice.
another way how to do this. And this, it's now powered with a standard
Okay.
speaker cable or guitar cable, no extra thing needed. And MIDI is the other option that also goes into the same socket. So this socket here, you plug in the MIDI adapter, and the amp is intelligent. Then, now I have a MIDI adapter. And then the boost button will become your MIDI learn button.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, stuff like that. And,
now, tell us
and
about that looper kit. Now, I was a little confused. I thought that was an expansion for the actual AMP1 itself, but that's for the controller, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
The looper kit is a four loops pedal switcher. We don't have one here. Well, next time.
That's because they're so popular and they're sold out.
Yeah. And it's a very clean switching relay looper switcher, super simple, and it works fantastic. This is what's on my pedal board, and I'm an esoteric guy. I want to keep, the magic of my real 61 Strat, which is here. And so I have like the switcher to bring out everything that is not used to have the full 100% of that guitar. And then when I bring in the pedal, I have the pedal. But if I don't want to have the pedal, I have 100% of that guitar and not too much cabling.
Nice.
So that's the reason.
Well, you got that guitar. Show us that guitar, mate.
Okie doke.
That guitar that you got there. Show us that, the 61.
The 61.
Yeah,
okay,
give us a close look at that, because I've played that and that is beautiful.
We got one here.
Oh,
yeah, wait a minute. This is the looper kit.
Okay, let's just rewind.
So, yeah, and this goes into the remote one switcher with this connector here, and then it's super simple. You have an in-out, and you have like 4 send return loops for pedals.
Oh, cool! So you've got level controls for each loop.
Yeah,
that's great.
No level controls. You have 4 loops, and you switch those with the remote one. So this is the brain for it.
Yeah.
And this goes into that side, and then your foot controller becomes a foot controller and pedal switcher.
That is freaking awesome.
So you get a concept. The amp by itself is the lightweight and most compact version how to get there. Next thing is external foot switch standard, and then the next thing would be this, which then would be controlled with presets and MIDI out and pedal switcher, or you go MIDI and have whatever fancy, gig rig or Roland, or there's so many companies doing nice switching systems.
You've really thought about this, haven't you? But I think you said it before, necessity being the mother of invention. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that English phrase, but
no, I'm very familiar with that.
You needed it, so you made
it's
it.
My creed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're about to play us the Iridium edition, yeah?
Okay.
Let's grab a guitar with
the
humbuckers.
Iridium, I use a humbucker. Where is my humbucker guitar? Okay. Get this here, and I use something like this.
What do we got there? ESP, okay.
It's an ESP. It's Seymour Duncan loaded guitar. So. Okay, something like this, maybe get. I didn't do a sound check on this one.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Start from scratch. So
well, that's good. We can see how you go about building a sound on this thing.
Right. Yeah. So I start with the master on 5. That's always a good starting point. Or basically everything on 5 is always a good starting point. So
it should be.
Maybe, yeah. It's my lesson on how everything on 5. This is all the way through 5. And now I can see what is missing. Do I want to have a volume and.
Now this is the clean channel on the Iridium edition, yeah. So it's a lot cleaner than the other one, isn't it? Than the Mercury.
Yes,
made more for humbuckers to stay clean.
Yeah, stay clean and have even with the humbuckers, I can get shimmering highs with my custom control on the side. If I turn it down, it's like I would call it the typically mid-rangey electric guitar amplifier tone. And on this side, it's getting a bit more sparkling.
I'm hearing the overtones now.
Yeah, and this is with the humbucker. So, when I designed this amp for like metal players in my head, I thought I should have something that brightens up the high output pickups. Output pickups have extra mids, which come in very handy to give you the push for the overdrive. But when you try to get a decent clean sound out of them, I know what sparkling highs are. So I came up with this circuit here that gives you this sparkle.
That's awesome. So that's the clean channel, which is, as you say, is designed to stay clean with the humbuckers.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else different about that to the clean channel on the Mercury edition?
Basically,
just the main thing?
It's differently voiced. It has a different gain structure. It's using the same technology. I can still break it up, but it will sound differently, just like a metal tube amp. My reference were like good Rev amps and Mesas or Engels or some of the great amps. We've met all the designers in Germany when you were there, when we first met.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically I know all their products as well, very well.
Everybody's friends, and I think that's what people don't realize is all the manufacturers, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are quite friendly. As I said, I was lining up a few chats for next week, and there was people, they're saying, who you got tonight? I said, Thomas Blug, and everyone's like, say good day to Thomas. And so it is a small world, the manufacturers.
Yeah, the whole musical industry of making, product for the music is kind of a small world, and you meet, and I think most people are driven from the music. So we are team players most of the time, So we kind of have I think we could all make a band together. It's we could have Dave on guitar, me on guitar, you on guitar, and that we could make
everybody on guitar. Everybody on guitar.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how about channel 2 on that thing?
Okay.
What's channel 2?
Channel 2, it's the vintage channel.
Yep.
And I can have that with that guitar. I would call this maybe like a little bit like Eddie Van Halen channel when I boosted a bit. Use the right cabinet for that, which should be this one.
There we go.
something like that.
Mate, that started out sounding like a blank preset, but you tuned that and got the sound in no time with it.
Yeah, I mean, what I've done is subtle differences. I reduced the mids from 5 to 4, and I increased the treble from 5 to 6.5 now. So you know, and that's it.
I really like when you're adjusting the mid range on that, just the frequencies that it's taking you through, and also I was seeing when you're backing off the volume knob, the way that was reacting.
Yeah.
All
That's important.
good signs of a good tube amp, really. But you've got this something that fits on the floor. Wow.
Yeah. Well, basically, that's if it wouldn't do it, I wouldn't play it, you know. And I play it. I'm the number one customer myself, you know.
Yeah.
And do you want to be on stage with something that is not what you could get? So this is my quality level just for myself. Yeah. Next channel. Okay. Next channel is classic. Maybe you can hear it. It's a subtle thing that I'm doing here. Mm-hmm. It's getting a mid-ranger tone on the one side. Yeah. I just left the overall EQ from the first sound, so I'm not changing that at the moment. Now just this channel. That's the one side that is woodier compared to the other side. Bigger.
Yeah, I was going to say that had more bottom. Yeah, Thomas, you said you're not playing very loud right now.
No, I'm still here. Talking level. It's. I have a super small, half the size of your NS10 monitor for my studio sound. This is what I'm hearing.
Wow.
I don't know how it sounds at your end, but it seems to be okay.
It sounded pretty good in my headphones, mate. I did see a couple of little comments here. Dragon Square says, with AMP1's EQ, 6 and 5 is still quite some difference. It's just super powerful. Yeah. Yes, it is. So I was going to ask you about those EQs. Are they active or passive? And I should have changed that because I was...
Yeah, okay. They are different. They are actually passive, but they are neutral. What happens is no tone. 0.
That's with it wound right back, is it? Okay.
So I have like 3 bands which don't affect the other band. So cool. On the standard passive tone control with guitar amps, it's like when you dial in less mids, you get automatically different highs. Mm-hmm. Or if you have less treble, the mid-range moves. You know, it's I call this the mattress effect. If you are on a sea, have a mattress, and if you go in the middle warm, you know, the edges kind of stick up. And the other way as well.
Now you want to talk about EQs that interact, and I have you mentioned before. I've got the AC10. I've got a microphone right the way that there. Oh, it helps if I actually talk into the microphone. That little AC10, man. The EQs actually really interact with each other. Like you say, one affects the other,
and that's a beauty if you want to have different characters on your single channel amp. But for me, I get the characters from my channels and then have an overall 3-band EQ that is easier to use in the way I need more treble. I just touch that and the rest will stay the same without I have to readjust it. So that's the difference with this EQ design of the AMP1. And it's the same concept for Mercury and Iridium, but it's totally different voiced for both amps, because an amp like the Iridium is harder, is more aggressive, but needs a different woodiness. So it kind of has different frequencies where you touch the frequency band with the controls.
Cool. Now, what channel were we up to? That was channel 2 or 3?
3 already. This was classic.
Yep.
And now modern. As you can hear, this is as tight as it gets with gain. You know, it's about being this modern metal kind of thing. I'm not a metal guy, sorry.
Nice.
And it has a gate for the dry rhythm sounds. Versus, you can hear that? When I engage the reverb, the gate will switch automatically to soft. So I can get even the...
That sounds great. Now, you were talking about the tightness factor, that metal guys are after the tightness. And a lot of guys tend to run tube screamers and different overdrive pedals to tighten the amp up, which kind of, when I first heard about this years ago, I'm thinking to myself, really? You're adding more distortion to try and get it tighter? And I didn't get it until I tried it and just went, whoa, there's that just pops out a bit. And
it's a chuck. So what a tube screamer or OD1 or all these early simple overdrive boxes do for the metal guys is they kind of roll off the low end, so they protect the first drive stage from getting overloaded with too much bass. So, that's important. And there's a device called a Horizon Drive, maybe you heard of it, that has a 5 whatever position switched where to roll off the bass. So that's the key factor is less bass, more definition. But then you also need mids to get a full sound. So where is the right kind of mids? And that's the secret of the Tube Screamer, because the Tube Screamer always has this honk, anyhow.
Yeah.
And then by the natural roll-off of the Tube Screamer and the extra honk, you get a pretty solid foundation to put that tone into high gain stages. So, and that's tighten up the sound and still being rich and full.
Nice,
so
nice.
That's
well,
the recipe.
You've done well, mate. I still
and this is all in there already. So, no pedals required. So, my Tube Screamer and all that stuff, it's here for my classic amps, how to cook the same sound recipe. But that recipe is already in here.
Nice. What are you using to play live? Obviously you've got
the silver
AMP1. You got the silver, yep. And then what effects are you hooking up with all that?
Okay, I got several pedal boards. My biggest pedal board is using a tape echo that I designed with Houston Kettner, which is not using real tape anymore, but a real tube.
Okay.
It's called the Replex, the Tube Replex, and that's kind of like the first Echoplex incarnation with a real tube. It's my holy grail.
Really?
Pedal. It's even bigger than my amp now. So the next products, or one day I will have a product with this echo because it takes too much real estate on my pedal board. Mm-hmm. So that's on my pedal board. I have a small stone phaser. It's a classic thing. Then I have a wah from the Czech Republic, or George Dennis. I think the company doesn't exist anymore. Okay. It is an optical wah, like a Morley, but has a bit smoother frequencies. I just like that. And what else? I have a Boss DD2 that I modded.
Okay.
Kind of getting it a little darker sounding. Yeah.
There's something about analog delays, isn't there? When you mentioned that. Yeah. I've got a HX Effects sitting just behind me there somewhere. There it is.
Yeah. I see it. On the
Yeah. And it's great to have everything in one, but yeah, man, I've got one of those.
A pedal is a pedal.
MXR carbon copy delay. I just can't get that thing to sound anything like that. I've got the Arion chorus pedal. I've got two here, SEH1 and a Z. My friend Mickey has lent me his. I forget who has the 1 and who has the Z, but we got both there. Man, the chorusing in that thing, anything digital is this even on in comparison? Yeah. There's just something about analog magic.
Yeah.
So what else you got on that board there, mate? On your pedal board.
What else is on my pedal board?
So there was the DD2. That's a pretty good setup as it is. That's pretty good as it is.
Yeah. I have another booster because I'm a booster freak. You know, I use all the drive for my amp.
Yep.
But I have a Reusenzen Daniel D. is a German guy that has simply put a single tube stage that I can use, and it gives me a little color. Nice. So this is why I have the looper kit. I can switch in and out different booster pedals or none, just for a little spice of this, like a little pepper here and a bit of chili there, and but it's only tiny little differences.
Yeah.
So that's on my pedal board. And I got the remote, so I can make the whole thing programmable with bringing in and out the pedals, changing channels and loop and blah blah blah. So that's where I'm at now.
Beautiful, beautiful. Is there anything else about the Iridium edition that we should know that's different to the Mercury?
Yeah, on this one you have the speaker simulation built in, which is voiced differently. Then you have the option to switch it off in case you want to use your own IRs.
Cool.
That's something metal players do a lot, and then it's an easy way to get the signal for your DAW or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
But besides that, it's a different amp for different guitars and players.
Yep.
And the owner of this guitar is a friend from my area, Alex Bayrod. He plays with Sinner and some other bands, and we are friends from teenage days. And he's got one of my Blue guitars, so we simply swap. We never pay any money, you know. It's just between friends. And he knows me, and he was touring with Rock Meets Classic in Germany and whatever, played with all the big guys, and you know, he knows me. And the AMP1, when the silver one came out, I said, oh, it's nice, but you know. So now with the Corona crisis, he had to stay home. And he rebuilt his whole studio, you know, kind of took it apart, moved it a bit and stuff. And I was borrowing him here, one of the Iridium, the black one. And, you know, just for, hey, check it out, you know, we are friends, it's cool. And usually he says, yeah, it's not my cup of tea because I've got this Voodoo amp and I got this and I got, you know. And the other day he called me, first time in our hood, and I said, hey, Blugie, I have to tell you something. Now it's shocking. What's going on? Did your father die or what's this? This is his best amp in his studio now. And I know what he's got in his studio. Yeah. You know, it's like, are you serious? No, he found his tone. And it's like, oh my God, you know, fine.
Yeah, cool. And with your product, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a great product idea for you, mate.
Okay.
Imagine if you somehow managed to squeeze four channels from the Mercury Edition and Iridium into one unit. It might have to be a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
I think you should do that. I'm going to put a patent on it before you start making that.
I already showed the study and the prototype at NAMM this year, and this is the next
not a secret
project we are working. No,
the AmpX is no secret.
About it.
Yeah, okay.
No, you know, it's such a big project. I choose the date NAMM 2020 because it's the new decade, and I have seen, you know, all tube amps, I've seen transistor amps, I've seen hybrid amps, I've seen modeling amps, and I've seen all kinds of variations. And in my life, the next product, which is the AmpX, combines all the beauty of this with all the rest that I still have in my head into our next flagship product, which is all analog signal path with a nanotube, combining that with some analog effects for compressor, for drive, for boosters, which is fully programmable. And even more scary, I can recreate any pedal, any amplifier that you can think of in an analog way. It's like, man, this guy is sick now.
You win.
Yes.
You win.
Yeah.
That's okay, I'm back. Ah! Yeah, man, when I saw that on your website, I just went, whoa, somebody's really been thinking. So it's pretty much everything that's in all the digital modelers that are out there.
But not being too digital. I mean, I try to be, I try to combine best of both worlds, but in a way that I get anything analog possible doing in analog. And of course, my reverb is digital and my delay is digital, but I will use also analog components to spice it up to get to there. So, you know, with all my experience and all my pedal collections, and you know, on my pedal board, there is mostly analog stuff. So that's my reference point. So my first reference point was my 13 tubes loaded boutique head to replace with this little fellow. And now my next challenge is to get my whole pedal board in just one pedal amp. And my car broke down and I will buy a new convertible. And this time I buy a BMW with the steel roof. And there's not much room in the trunk. So I have to build this amp just for my new car.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So how far off do you think that is going to be before we see the Amp X, mate? Is that a fair way off?
I would say NEM next year. But the thing is, the whole project is so complex. It's because, imagine, if you have a standard amplifier, you have a circuit. And the circuit, like your Vox, you can dial in the treble here, and you can dial in the bass there. And there's like 3 knobs, and that's it. And then how to test it, you can apply a test signal, and you get like a response from a white noise or pink noise, and it's easy. But now we designed an amp that can recreate anything. How many options? How to find out if something is wrong on the analog side, and how to find out what's wrong on the software. So the complexity of this thing is so complex. It's not by 2, it's by scary. And I know it works because I've heard our Spider prototype, and the quality is there, but I only could hear one sound. If I try to make another sound, I have like 50 parameters that I have to change. It takes a whole day to get another sound.
Yeah.
And now we have to marry like the digital controlling side with the analog things. Boy, all I'm saying is it will see the market when it's finished and when it's
when
right.
it's ready, yeah.
And
you're not going to
let
ready. People be the beta testers, yeah.
No.
Are you the technical guy behind all this, or are you the Steve Jobs and you have a Steve Wozniak behind the scenes, or are you both?
Yeah, I have a team. Let's put it that way.
You have a team, yeah.
It's like, I can mod a little bit. I understand everything. I can mod tube amps. I'm on that level. But I'm not able to make a switch mode power supply and a crazy stuff like our power amp stage. I have ideas for how it should be,
Yep.
But going in detail, I have a Russian engineer who is a brilliant guy, and I have a very talented German engineer, and he's probably more the digital guy, but also has analog knowledge. And in the team of the 3 of us, we get there. And that's, it's a teamwork. But, one guy alone would never get there. I could make something like a Soldano amp. I could make one great sound and have the old school technology. So it takes us 3.
Well, mate, it sounds like you're doing things right, which is great. And as somebody said, he is such a pro, he won't put it out till it's perfected. And there are some companies that put stuff out, and you'd hope that the people will be their beta testers, but you can obviously play very fucking good. That was the first thing I noticed when I met you and you picked up a guitar in Germany and you started playing. It was just like, oh, I'm not playing in front of this guy. But talking about your playing, we were talking a little earlier, and you said that you really don't practice that much. How do you keep your chops up if you're not one to practice?
Yeah, okay. Usually I have booked myself enough gigs during the year. And, being on stage means I have to perform and I have to be good because people pay to see me. And so for me, it's like focusing the energy. That's one thing. And the other thing is I learned I can do a lot of things in my head already. It's like I can dream of melodies. I can think of arrangements. I can I wrote most of my albums on my push bike and doing other things than having a guitar in my hand. And then, of course, when I grab the guitar, I need some physical exercise as well. But I think I learned most of that when I was a teenager, and then I became kind of too busy to practice. Maybe you notice too. I mean, the more professional you get, the less time you have for practicing, I think.
I have to admit, I get bouts of tendonitis. And just during the whole lockdown thing the last month, I haven't touched a guitar on purpose, just to let them all heal and everything. Every couple of years, they tend to flare up.
And that's good. That's good. What I found is if you play every day, if you play too much, you are technically brilliant, but you lose some of the freshness in the inspiration. At least I do.
Absolutely. I feel the same. Just the way you were describing, writing in your head and everything. And that's, you're not thinking too much technical. You said it to me earlier, you like to go for a bike ride or something. And I said, yeah, I go for a walk on the beach and I don't think about it. And melodies will just start playing in my head rather than thinking the numbers game. And we also said that Steve Vai recently just watched one of his live streams and he was talking about getting your ear to a point that you can practice songs and not touch a guitar. You practice them in your head. And he was saying that before he even hits record, he knows exactly how that's going to sound, the textures and everything involved. And it's just a matter of recreating that. So it's quite a skill.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a visual guy like you. I mean, it's like when I think of something, I can see the fingering, you know, and even if I don't have the guitar in my hand, I know, this is the fingering.
Yep.
You know, it's like there.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Kind of works.
Yeah. Now, you had your 61 Strat there before, but you also had a Blue guitar. That's the other one, isn't it? Yeah. Yep. Which you developed with, if I'm not wrong, Trev Wilkinson. Is that who built that with you? Yeah.
Yeah, Trevor Wilkinson. There's a little story about me and Trev.
We like stories. We like stories. We got a few people listening in, so
okay.
No one's going to know.
So this is the vintage guitar. This is my first project with Trevor Wilkinson. Vintage is a UK brand, and I have like 2 signature models with them.
Cool.
And this is we go back decades, and Trev is first, he's a super nice guy, and we've been talking every trade show and blah blah blah, and one day he came up and said, I make an affordable guitar project. Are you interested? And I said, cheap guitars, and then he gave me a prototype. And I said, man, that's actually pretty good. And then if I do it, I want to go all the way. So I want extra shielding plate. I want my dummy coil. I want this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, yeah, sure, let's do it. And still get it at a good price, decent price point. So this came out of our collaboration here, which goes back 10 years and they are still on the market. And
cool.
This is when I founded BluGuitar. He said, you do stuff in front of camera. You shouldn't have, you should have your own logo in the camera. And I said, yeah, you're right. And so we came up with the idea of making a master build BluGuitar that kind of makes me sound like playing the real deal. Mm-hmm. So have a good spare guitar at the highest possible level. And this is now what it is. And I can show you with this amp.
Now, Thomas, you said the magic word before. You said dummy coil. Have you got a dummy coil in that? And if people don't know what that is, do you care to explain to folks what a dummy coil is?
No, my pleasure. This is the switch to engage the dummy coil. So if it's in, it looks original and it's bypassed. So it's all original, looks original, and it sounds original. And if this is engaged, the dummy coil is active. So what is a dummy coil? Dummy coil is an extra coil, just like on a humbucker where I have another pickup that picks up the signal but reverse wound, and so the hum is coming from whatever your transformer, electric magnetic field, and then if one coil picks it up positive and the other one negative, and you blend both together, it kind of is hum canceling or reducing. I mean, it's and that's the concept of a humbucker. In the humbucker, the 2 coils are next to each other in one pickup, usually. And what I've done is simply I have a spare pickup underneath the scratch plate that just picks up the hum and no strings. So I don't have any extra gain like a humbucker, but I have less noise. And that's the way I do it. It's not much sound difference.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's
I'm gonna have to look into those. I've never had a guitar. I've never had a guitar with a dummy coil, and I might look into that. Because true single coils do have a sound. I got Richie Kotzen Strat back there somewhere, and the pickups in that are true single coils, and there's some venues I just can't use it. But oh man, when I record with it, just nothing else has that bloom around the front end of the note. Love it.
I totally agree. And for me, I came up with this solution out of necessity on stage because, I loved my 61 Strat so much that I played every gig with it, and I played many styles with it. I play high gain and I play classic clean tones and everything. And when you play, some of the clubs, they are on train stations, because outside town and this is where you are allowed to make music. But the problem is it's so... When the train comes, and you play high gain on the Strat, it's like impossible. And so for me, the point is, I had to come up with an idea, and swapping the guitar is not my cup of tea. And then I tried it. I didn't invent that, but it's something that I did to my guitar and still do, which is great.
Awesome. Like I said, I'm gonna have to look into that because it's not something I've had in any of my Strats. I do have some.
You can still switch it, bypass it. That's the point. I mean, if you want to go all original, it disappears. Just one flick of a switch.
I'm gonna have to talk to some guitar guys around here, repairers, and see if they can whip up something like that for me.
I've done a live stream myself called the Academy of Tone.
Yep.
I think in episode number 2 and 3, I'm talking about this, but in episode number 2, you will find the schematics for how you do it on a Strat. So you can because you will understand once. Show this to a guitar guy, and he goes, "Oh, okay, I understand."
Okay, so just for the viewers again, if somebody didn't catch that, where can they find that?
You go on the BluGuitar YouTube channel, and then you find 3 live streams by now. We just started, and on the second and the third one, I'm talking about the dummy coil. And on the second one, we posted a link for downloading the schematics for this. And on this, and I showed the difference. Details and blah blah. I went very esoteric. I have master tone versus standard wiring on another guitar, and I demonstrated that.
Cool.
Just thinking about Strat details.
Yeah. Well, thank you, kind sir, for sharing that knowledge online. That's very kind of you. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Thomas, I saw a couple of weeks ago that you posted some music of yours on Facebook, and I commented on there because it was the backing of it was very electronic. And that wasn't what I was expecting from you. And I personally love electronic music. People think, really? You're a guitar player? I forgot about being a guitar player for 15 years and just made electronic music. And I noticed that our friend Mika, also, his previous album was very electronic. And I played that on Spotify and just went messages and went, dude, I know you got a new album, but the one before. Yeah. How does the electronic thing work in for you, mate? Is that something that you've always liked, or
no? I grew up with the Rolling Stones and Kraftwerk. And so I have and Jean-Michel Jarre, stuff. So I was fascinated as a teenager from electronic music as much as I was fascinated from the Rolling Stones with the So all that music is my music.
Yeah.
So of course, being a guitar player, mostly you end up in being in a classic rock and roll or blues environment, and I've done movie scores for television, and there I was doing more electronic stuff just because I play a little keyboards and there's all the electronic sounds, and it was inspiring, stuff like that.
Yep.
And then I played a few organic guitar notes on top of that.
Yep.
And I wanted to do a record like that. And this was my third solo record. And basically it's a one-man show because I played everything on that, even the bass. Only on the last track I had my band playing. I really liked that album, yes, but some of my fans didn't like it. They
really?
went like, and here's the fun thing about it. I played the same songs from that electronic record on my live album, Live in Raalte in the Netherlands, with Thijs van Leer, the organ player from Focus, in my band, the same songs from the electronic albums, just with the live band played, and everybody go, "That's a great song. I didn't know." I said, "Did you?" I didn't like the previous album. That just because of the sounds, they didn't listen. And for me, convertible car, electronic album with the guitar, this is all that's my word.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I did have a few things here before I rounded it up that I was going to ask you. Where can people get the AMP1 or any of your products? Are they available direct, or do you have distributors around the place?
We have distributors around the place. We have dealers. Of course, Australia is very far from Germany. We do have a distributor, EGM, and they just get a shipment which will leave or left yesterday. So there will be more amps in Australia, hopefully very soon, next week.
Yay!
Air freight, yeah.
Yes.
And then there are, of course, there are big online dealers. I mean, internationally, we sell to Sweetwater, to Thomann. We have local stores in Germany, and we have distributors in the Netherlands and in many countries. Not all of them. The company is still young. If some Japanese guys listen, we need somebody new in Japan. But, we're there.
I will stick a link in the comments below after we're finished with a link to them at Thomann if people in Europe or a bit closer want to get one. I did talk to Marcello the other day, who was the Australian distributor, and they are indeed on their way. I am going to do a bit of a comparison video between the two, and I have, I've got a couple of friends. I mentioned my friend Licia before. I actually reckon that we're going to get these. We go, how much? We'll take them. I'm really excited to get my hands on one again. It's been a while since I played it in Germany. Do we have any more questions for folks in the chat room before I round things up with Thomas? And if you're tuning in on Facebook, I'm not actually getting the comments from Facebook here, so you might want to jump over to YouTube, or you could chuck a comment in there now. I actually have it open beside me. I might see it, but we've got far more viewers actually on YouTube than Facebook right now. Thomas, anything you wanted to add in there before we round up, mate?
Oh, not really. I mean, if you're interested, the BluGuitar channel, we go into detail. I mean, it's like sometimes it might be esoteric, but if you are into detail, I hope I can provide some of the knowledge that you don't find other places. Of course, there's some common knowledge and there's some stuff. So the BluGuitar channel is new. That's my new baby, and it's something good. Stay healthy, stay safe, mentally enjoy playing the guitar, and that's the good thing about Australian people. They have a beautiful mindset. Most of them are just so positive people.
Oh, cool.
At least I met them, and it's probably have so much sun or whatever makes you happy. It's great.
It depends where you are. It's a big place. It's a big place, but I probably live in the best. Well, it's known for its surfing beaches and the like. It's called the Gold Coast, and it's like living in Hawaii or Miami when I go down to the beaches. Yeah, in fact, the beaches here are named after like places like Miami and the like.
Yeah.
But mate, if ever you come down this way, you have to make sure you touch base, and be cool to get together.
It's
and
on my wish list.
Yeah, awesome. So, folks, let's all thank Thomas for coming in. He's been an absolute champion. And as I said, I'm going to put some links below where you can get the AMP1. And once again, thank you very much, Thomas. And I will see everybody again. Oh, we got some good guests next week as well. So I just posted all those on my Facebook. Rick Hollis Music. We've got them coming in. I've got the next couple of weeks of some really cool guests. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Thomas. Goodbye.
Cheers.